Welcome to the Deepin State, sponsored by Eclipse. I'm Nick Hawks. Today's guest is Max Gold of Gold Hawks and Associates. This episode is sponsored by Eclipse Labs. Eclipse is building Ethereum's fastest layer 2, powered by the Solana virtual machine. Eclipse combines Solana's performance and scalability with Ethereum security to get the best of both worlds. You can read more about Eclipse mainnet at www.eclipse.builders. We'll have a little bit more on them later in the show. Before we get started, make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and bell. That helps us bring rad guests like my partner Max on to you. Max, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, it's great to be on this side of the camera. Also, don't forget to tell people to follow us on Twitter at Deepin State. I guess it's X now.
That's right, because it's like 30% of, what is it, Twitter followers don't subscribe, something like that? Or 60%?
I think it's the other way around. I think it's like 30% of. I don't know. We don't have to talk about the YouTube analytics now.
Okay.
I want to talk about Bonk.
Let's talk about Bonk, dude. What's going on with this thing? You've been gnawing my ear off about this for a while, so let's tell everybody.
It's this crazy thing. Bonk is a meme coin that came out towards around this time last year, maybe a little bit earlier, but had a little bit of a pump last year, and then immediately just kind of went away. It's thought of kind of a joke. It's a Solana dog token, some of the best money apparently in crypto. It's just dog money. But so part of buying the Solana Saga phone, you were entitled to a 30 million Bonk airdrop. Now, with the recent price action of Bonk, which again, not financial advice to go and buy Bonk, but just this is a historical view of what happened. It became cheaper to buy the Saga phone than it did to buy 30 million Bonk. So you essentially got a free phone plus a little bit of an arbitrage when you bought the Saga phone past week. On top of that, what happened was you also, when buying the phone, you get one free month of Helium Mobile. And the nice thing about that one free month of Helium Mobile, whether you stick with it or not, in that month you can agree to do something called discovery mapping. And that discovery mapping, essentially, you let Helium Mobile know where you're going throughout your day. And they use that information to determine where coverage is needed for the network. That then allows the person who's doing the mapping of the network to determine where they're going. They then get some emissions from the mobile sub-data. Those emissions happen to also be at a point right now where, because everything else is going up and it's bringing this up, that's actually cheaper than a monthly plan. So the really cool thing about that is you have people who are crypto native, who maybe they didn't really know much about DY or DePIN, or they knew about it, but they were kind of turned off by the idea. You had a bunch of scam projects, most notably Pollen, that turned a lot of people off from DePIN. As we saw, like over the summer, DePIN was kind of a bad word. But now it's really starting to make a comeback because we're seeing these uses. And then the nice thing is, because people who figured out this arbitrage on a meme coin, they're like, oh, wow, here's this thing that actually has use, and they're now getting exposure. And it's really good people to bring into the ecosystem because they're people who understand crypto. You don't have to teach them. You don't have to onboard them onto crypto. And typically they'll stick around for a little bit. So we're adding a bunch of new crypto people into the DePIN ecosystem. It's really exciting.
Got it. And then those folks coming in, so we did more than just kind of sell a bunch of phones here. Not that we sold the phones, but there's more than just a bunch of phones got sold here. This is driving speculation into mobile. All these new folks in driving up the price. And then can you walk me through what that does as far as deploying more hardware and maybe some other kind of knock-on effects?
Right. So, I mean, typically what happens, doesn't take a genius to figure this out. If you can go and deploy hardware and earn back your money in a fairly short amount of time, you're probably going to go buy some of that hardware to go. People, again, not financial advice, but people like to look at how fast they can, quote unquote, ROI their hardware. So as the mobile token starts to take off, it creates this effect of, oh, I can make money doing this. Let me go and buy some hardware, deploy it so I can make that money. And then as a result, the network then gets bigger. And what's actually really nice about this too, because of the phone onboarding these people into Helium, is those people are likely going to deploy hardware where they live or in the area that they live, which is also where they're going to be using it. So that's a really nice effect for the network, that this is all kind of coming together really well. Ironically, it's through a meme coin taking off. But, this is something that's like really exciting and could start this next DePIN revolution.
Okay. Big promises there. I like it. I've given you a hard time. So it's crazy that that Bonk is the catalyst here. For folks who haven't read our post on all of these different things, kind of want to walk us through what this catalyst idea is.
I'd really like to talk about Eclipse first.
Okay, we can talk about Eclipse.
Leave it in there too. This is a little behind the scenes. This is what normally happens. Is Nick will ask a question, and I'll be in the background saying, "Hey, run an ad, run an ad, run an ad." So, Nick, run that ad.
All right. Let's take a quick break, talk about today's sponsor, eclipse Labs. One of the cool parts about doing this show is we get to talk to tons of projects across the space, including back-end nerdy stuff that helps DePIN projects. One of those is today's show sponsor, Eclipse Labs, who's building Ethereum's fastest layer 2 to support several DePIN projects. Eclipse leverages the best parts of the modular stack, Solana for execution, Celestia for scalability, and Ethereum for security. Eclipse is committed to helping projects build on DePIN. Check them out at eclipse.builders and check out the interview we did with Neil at Eclipse if you haven't seen it. All right, Max. So let's walk it back to this whole catalyst idea. It's crazy that Bonk comes along, becomes this catalyst. We talk about this with our clients a lot, the structure, story, and catalyst. We've written blog posts about it, but for folks who aren't going to read the blog post, you want to walk me through what you think is special about this?
Yeah, so I mean, there's three pieces to making a successful DePIN in our situation. It's something we evangelize to all of our clients is you have to control what you can control. That's the structure and the story. Number one, is the structure in place so that your project can scale? And what does that mean? That you need to have the right tokenomics, you need to have the right incentives, you need to have the right security in place so that people can't game your network. All those things, right? The next thing is you have to have a story. Once people come and look at your project, it's can they understand what you're doing? And we'll use Helium Mobile as an example. And by the way, just a caveat, Helium Mobile is a client of Goldhawk, so we don't want to come off like we're shilling anything, but just want that to be known. So Helium Mobile, in this example, it's really easy for people to understand. My cell service is either not great in an area or it's really expensive. It can now become cheaper by deploying this other hardware and then doing it in a decentralized way. It can also be better, but at a minimum cheaper. So on top of that, it's also I can now control an area and essentially make money off of all the people in my city, assuming they become Helium Mobile subscribers or a subscriber of another company that uses Helium Mobile for offline. Right? So that's okay. A story. That's something that's very explainable. Then what happens is that's great. You have that you have that ready to go. But then you need some kind of catalyst to get everything moving in motion, right? You can try to do it yourself, and we've seen other DePIN projects try to artificially move stuff ahead. But you really need that catalyst. In 2020, we saw 0 interest rates. Was the thing that really had crypto taking off. In this case, could it be Bonk? Maybe, as ridiculous as that sounds. It doesn't really matter what the catalyst is, and Bonk's actually a really good example of you might not know. This is something that no one really saw coming. But as long as you have the first two pieces set up, then you have that catalyst come around. You want to be ready for that catalyst. So that's something we tell all our clients to get ready for that. And it's nice to see that potentially this is what's happening. And, we're seeing some feedback from people both in the community and newcomers to the community with Helium Mobile recently had a Wi-Fi outdoor AP drop. So the Wi-Fi routers or Wi-Fi miners, those actually sold out. We don't know how many. I think it's about 1,000, but still really good sign for this, 2023. After we've seen very little growth. So, it's nice to see that.
Yeah, it's probably the first time 2023 we've seen miners sell out. So that's kind of cool. All right, so Bonk's a meme coin, kind of a funny thing. There's a pretty famous joke in our little circle on DePIN about Amir Halim paying you in Bonk coin, and I'll let people figure that out later for a bet. But does that mean that other things are also meme coins as well? Is mobile just a meme coin? Like, what gives mobile value?
Well, so originally mobile's value was going to be its redemption rate for HNT from its treasury fund. I don't know that we want to get into all the specifics of how the DAO utility score work right now, but due to a slight lack of foresight, also kind of a bad deal where this was needed so that mobile could even exist in the Helium ecosystem, and just like slower than expected development time, we ended up in a situation where that's not that attractive of a reason to hold. So incomes like what do you do at that point? Do you just say, "Oh, well, we're screwed"? No, you try to innovate on it. So like HIP 84 was a HIP that I was a part of along with some other co-authors, where we tried to create some value for the mobile token. That utility being, when you take that mapping data that we talked about earlier, it allows service providers to burn mobile tokens to increase rewards in certain areas. What that'll do is it'll entice people to put up hardware in places where it's needed. So it's a little bit of a way to subsidize, for the network to subsidize where it thinks future earnings are going to be, and it also gives utility to the token. On top of that, HIP 96 is about to go live. For every Wi-Fi AP that gets onboarded, you'll see there's going to be either, I think it's $10 or $20, depending on the Wi-Fi device, is going to be burned worth mobile. So it's another piece of utility there. It's not what the network wants its main source of revenue to be. However, it's something that can get this flywheel started and moving, and then get the network built out. And that's really what we're looking for here, is to get physical infrastructure out in the world and a network running. And then once the network's there, people will.
Yeah. And full disclosure, Max and I wrote HIP 96. We've also written a blog post on it over at the goldenhawks.com blog. So if you want to read either of those and figure out what's going on this whole onboarding fees thing, you certainly can there. Max, thanks a ton for your time. I know it's in short supply. We got a lot of other stuff to work on. Is there anything else you want to put out there before we sign off on this thing?
No, I think we're good. It's Sunday. We got to go back to watching football. So.
All right, cool. Thanks, man. Thanks.
We start building on Monday.
All right, buddy. Talk to you later. Ciao, ciao.
Bye-bye.